the arrival of the official party. I remain standing for the playing of the national anthem and the invocation, which will be delivered by Chaplain Kilgore.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, came through the night, that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Chaplain Kilgore will now deliver the invocation. We are doing this electronically today.
We have no hotspot connectivity right now, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Sharple, if you will.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day and this beautiful celebration of Jim and Katrina Steddum and their 30-plus years of service, Lord. We ask that you continue to watch over them as they embark on the new journey of life, this next chapter. We thank you for the gifts that you've given them and their family over the past 30-plus years, Lord. We ask that you keep an eye over the ceremony and keep everything safe. Lord, we ask all this in your holy name. Amen.
Please be seated. Distinguished guests, fellow soldiers and service members, fellow members and friends, good afternoon. It is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome each of you today to the retirement ceremony of Chief Warrant Officer 5, James Steddum. My name is CW3 Rebecca Stuyvesant, and I will be today's narrator. Today, the United States Army will honor Chief Warrant Officer 5, Jim Steddum, on the occasion of his retirement after 32 years of dedicated service to our country. The presiding officer for today's ceremony is Lieutenant General Charles M. Peedy, the Judge Advocate General of the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General Peedy.
All right, this will be a real test. How do you hear me in the back? Thumbs up, excellent. Welcome everyone. It's wonderful to see you all. I'll start off by saying, where's Amanda? Where'd you go? Bravo, one more time. The only word that came to mind was angelic. It sounded angelic. It was just absolutely beautiful, so thank you. And then I guess I'd have to start off by saying, I guess we won't be talking IT today. Just saying. The Army's good about always having a backup plan. So we always, although we trust the digital world, we rely always on the analog world. And so that's, so thank you, chaplain friend. Thank you to the chaplain in the remote regions of the world. Apparently uncontactable. So welcome. This is a very, very special day for our Army today, and it's also a very special day for our regiment. Our Army, because we changed out this very morning our 39th Chief of Staff of the Army to become our 40th Chief of Staff of the Army. And Chief just reminded me he was promoted to CW5 on the same day that the 39th Chief of Staff assumed his duties 4 years ago. So a pretty wonderful coincidence, actually. We also welcome today our new Sergeant Major of the Army, Sergeant Major Grinston. General McConville and Sergeant Major Grinston are now two of our senior leaders in our Army. Pretty neat today that we started the morning with a transfer of responsibilities and two senior leaders, and this afternoon the Army, in its historic fashion, recognizes two more senior leaders leaving our regiment, that is Katrina and Jim Steddum, today. As much as we regret this day arriving, all of us in this business know that it has to happen. We all leave formation sometime, and this is your time, and we're proud to be part of it, Jim and Katrina and the entire Steddum family. So some introductions first. We have spread among us some wonderful distinguished visitors and guests today, and go down the road, and nobody wants me to mention them, I know. But we have our 39th Judge Advocate General, retired Florida Arpino. Thanks for being here, and her husband, Chris O'Brien. Thank you for joining us today. We have our very own Marie Asparaga. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks for coming back, Gwen, as well. Wonderful to see you guys. From USALS, we have our litigation director, Becky Aussprung, and from Fort Belvoir, right here, General Counsel, Mike Coker, former Judge Advocate and Colonel of our regiment. Sir, it's great to see you, and thanks for always joining us for these great events. We have our very own Sergeant Major Pat Lister joining us. He keeps stealing all our talent. We're not bitter though. That's the main. We have the recently, or soon to be, departing Sergeant Major Fassler. Just yesterday, 2 days ago, Command Sergeant Major Fassler from our wonderful LCS, having performed magnificently down there, goes off to Germany to be the senior enlisted person in Germany to take care of business. The great Mort Shea, our senior civilian, and his wife Barb, thanks for joining us. Senior civilian of our regiment for only a few more weeks. He retires now on the 22nd of this month. It is a changing of the guard that we mark as well. So thanks. What do you call people from Michigan, by the way? Ganders. Ganders. Put a D in there? Michiganders? We have two Michiganders. Well, three, actually. Yeah, you betcha. You betcha. We've got a regimental command sergeant major, Marty Martinez, here, and the man who's taking Jim's place. Nobody can take Jim's place. Nobody can fill his shoes. Chief CW5 Ron Prescott, who assumed duties last Friday, is here as well. Please welcome them when you see them at the break. In the front row, we could not do this work apart. Our Deputy Judge Advocate General Stu Resch is here with his wonderful wife Cindy, who have come. They've got family at home, so we appreciate you very much being here, and my lovely wife Ann. Thank you for being here as well. And now to the Steddum family, a very warm welcome. I've already introduced Katrina. I'm just going to go down the row. We got Mickey here, who's now entering 4th grade, and how old? Exactly. What is it, Mom? 9. 9, which is the age you are when you go into 4th grade. So thank you, Mickey, for being here. We have the absolutely beautifully dressed and beautiful Emery, who's 2 months old, who's transfixed by my comments. Are you not? And her mother, Leilani, and her father, Sean, all the way from Alabama. Thanks for being here. Jim's aunt, Debbie, and her husband, LR, from Springfield. Also, thank you for being here. Jim's mother's sister. So thank you for being here. Son Chemo, Charlie. There was one more. That was it? Okay.
Unless he's in trouble.
Unless he's in trouble, and it's Charles Chemo?
Chemo Kalani Kaino.
Yes.
Chemo's holding Kailani, and Lexi or Lexa, that would be trouble in an Amazon household,
Yes.
is holding Kaya. And you see a similarity in these names. I think Hawaii had a significant influence on the Steddum family. So we welcome all of you. This is a family affair, the business of soldiering, and we all know that nobody can do what we do without family and the inspiration family provides. One more time. That's Danny. Thank you very much. So we're here today because these two got married one day after high school graduation. Who does that? These two. Anybody else do that? Anybody else willing to admit that? There you go. 2 days after. 2 days. All right. Well, that's cool. That's awesome. One day after high school, he enlisted actually before he graduated. And then one day, literally one day after high school, got married. And ever since, 31 years, 13 moves later. I think that's what I counted. Multiple deployments, countless units. I'll go through a little bit of that. It's a pretty extraordinary set of travels that you both have been on, lo these many years. All started with the Wildcats in Neosho, Missouri. I've had a hard time trying to pronounce that town. In Missouri. And off they went to Germany. I'm not going to go through the list. You got a wonderful program, but this man was a non-commissioned officer for many years, close to 11 years by my count, I think. We know in the Judge Advocate General's Corps, we grow our warrant officers, our legal administrators, the people that keep the engines of the ship running. We grow them typically from our non-commissioned officers, anywhere between 7, 11, 12 years. And in this case, around about year 2000, 1999, Jim decided he wanted to be a warrant officer, but it really wasn't then. He and I haven't talked about it, but it became evident when I started doing a little research into his file. But they both went to Germany, and it wasn't long with the 2nd ACR, and it wasn't long before he was in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, as a squadron, a battalion paralegal at our lowest echelon, essentially our lowest echelon, where we put young soldiers, paralegals, to support commanders dealing with discipline issues in the Army. And here's what's neat about it. So he does a number of typical NCO assignments following 2nd ACR around the world. And so you'll have to apologize while I use my papers here. But this is what's neat. This is what I find so remarkable. Normal stuff as a non-commissioned officer, but this is what I found interesting. NCOIC at the center, as a center judge advocate in Tripler, which is in Hawaii. And this is his job description as, I think, maybe an E5, E6 maybe?
I made E6 there.
E5, E6. Served as a webmaster for internet sites. Served as system administrator for the Command Judge Advocate publications and databases. Served as the law library manager, transformed the law library into a digitized library. This is as an E6. Frugally managed a budget of over $300,000 while meeting all mission requirements. In his first year of the claims operation, increased revenue from $175,000 to $1 million. As a non-commissioned officer, we know where he got the bug to want to be a legal administrator. And I suspect it, maybe before that, but certainly when you were at Tripler. Pretty neat thing. But he continued to excel because his NCOERs, all of his evaluators, all of his leaders looked at Jim and saw somebody with extraordinary potential, not only as a non-commissioned officer, which is why he kept getting promoted, but as somebody who could compete as a legal administrator. And none other than Kenny LaSousse. Anybody know Kenny LaSousse in this? I was waiting for DJ to raise his hand. Well, those of us who know Kenny LaSousse knows that he wasn't a person to heap praise casually on people. When Jim applied to become a warrant officer, and it's a very, very tough cut as the warrant. Where are all our warrant officers? Raise your hands high. I'd like the family to turn around and look. Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. If you were mentored by Jim Steddum, coach, trained, please stand up. I'm still standing. Stu's standing, and look at the legacy that Jim leaves today. So to family, to Jim, to Katrina, when you think about what it means to serve and lead and coach and mentor, wherever you are, as an informal leader, as a leader, a formal leader, this is what you leave behind. That's your legacy and beyond. So please have a seat. Thank you. We all love Kenny LaSousse, so I was surprised to read this. I do not exaggerate when I say Steddum, Staff Sergeant, one each, is the most talented Staff Sergeant I've worked with in the Army. Impeccable bearing, accomplished skills in management, and caring, tactful leadership. And that will come up in just a moment, because I want to simply then highlight Jim's request to become a warrant officer, because this is telling as well. I won't read it. I expressed my desire to become one of the best legal administrators in the Judge Advocate General's Corps. Got his values from his mom and dad and the Boy Scouts of America. We have sitting here an Eagle Scout. Also an Eagle Scout who continued to contribute to the Boy Scout program for 30 more years. On and on. Now, check these off. My long-term goal is to attain the rank of Chief Warrant Officer 5. Check. I'll work as long and as hard as it takes to accomplish my goal. My educational goal is to receive a master's degree in public administration. 2007, check. And that's why you have this kind of officer sitting in front of you today. He's a man of goals, he's a man of drive, he's a man of vision, he's a man who cares, he's a man who knows what he wants. And that's why he became the senior legal administrator in our Corps, our regimental warrant officer of the Judge Advocate General's Corps. So that's just getting through the gate to become a legal administrator, which is a very tough cut. And as a legal administrator, he did similar but equally transforming things as a warrant officer, as a legal administrator. And you can see throughout his time as a legal administrator, it's not for the faint of heart. I don't mind if you don't, but you're welcome to stay.
We'll be right back.
Fort Leavenworth, Charlottesville, at an institutional level, trying to figure out how does this institution work. Korea, Fort Richardson, with our units in Alaska. Fort Shafter, back to Hawaii. Fort Rucker at the schoolhouse. Again, institutional, then to the Pentagon. You just look at those assignments across the years, just as a legal administrator, not to mention all the places he served as a non-commissioned officer. The depth, breadth, and vastness of the experience creates an officer that General Darpino and General Ayers and the leadership team at that time, 4 years ago, could select easily as the next regimental warrant officer of our Corps. And that's what's so remarkable. Virtually everyone, the recommendations for the selection, and these are, he was down at the Warrant Officer Career College at Fort Rucker, serving he was a warrant officer, legal administrator, but serving the warrant officer community. The Commandant, prior to selection as our regimental. Phenomenal performance by the #1 of 13 CW4s I senior rate. At the time, he was the department head of communications and management in a non-JAG billet. Kevin Jacobson, Colonel Jacobson, who most of us know in this room, who has reached iconic, kind of legendary, godlike status. Well, maybe for me. Jim Steddum is without peer. There is no more capable CW4 in the JAG Corps. That's why General Darpino selected Jim Steddum to lead our Corps. That's why he sits here today as one of one. There are, as I was telling the family, there's a lot of jobs in the world. There's a lot of jobs in our Corps. There's only one regimental chief warrant officer of our Corps. And they're lightning strikes. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of qualified people. He's not in it for himself. He was selected because he's a humble leader. He was selected because he's an extraordinary professional, an extraordinary mentor and coach to a world of officers, not just legal administrators, not just warrant officers, but captains and majors and lieutenant colonels and general officers, absolutely, and sergeants major, all throughout his career, most especially as our chief warrant officer of our Corps. Over the last number of years, especially the last 4, Jim has continued to lead. He's led in knowledge management. He's led in budgets. He's led in teaching. He's led in changing and transforming the career model for legal administrators. He's led in electronic discovery. There's nothing that legal administrators do that Jim Steddum hasn't set the bar for, hasn't set the standard, hasn't set the mark out in the distance, and caused all of us to try and reach. That's why he was our regimental chief warrant officer of our Corps, and that's why he served so nobly. And I have to say, as I said up front, nobody can do this alone. He and Katrina, if you know them, and so many, that's why you're here, you know them. You know the kind of team they are. There's no daylight between these two. They do everything together. And it's an inspiring example. And I have to say, as I close and we present Jim with so many richly deserved awards, Jim dealt with some difficulties. You probably all know he had some health difficulties. And if he'd permit me to talk for just a moment about that, that may have stymied others of lesser fortitude. That may have stopped them in their tracks. That may have caused them to say, I think I'm done. But not Jim, and not Katrina. Despite an extraordinarily difficult health challenge, Jim Steddum, Katrina, and the family bonded, got through the health challenge, and when Stu and I asked him if he wanted to continue to serve, he said, I want to run through the end. And that's exactly what Jim Steddum has done. In my view, there is no more inspiring example of a soldier leader than Jim Steddum and Katrina in what they've done for our Corps and our Army for these 31 years, but most especially over the last 4 leading under 2 leadership teams, but most especially the last 2 years. So we are personally grateful. We will miss you terribly. We don't want you to leave the formation. We know we all do, and we know that you have built our regiment so someone is ready to stand up and take your place. And there's no greater tribute to a great leader. So Jim, if you'd come up, we'll shower you with awards.
Lieutenant General Petey will now present Chief Steddum with his retirement award. The Distinguished Service Medal is presented to Chief Warrant Officer 5, James E. Steddum, for exceptionally meritorious service while serving in a succession of key assignments, culminating as the Regimental Chief Warrant Officer of the Judge Advocate General's Corps. Chief Warrant Officer 5 Steddum's leadership, dedication to duty, and expertise have been vital to the success of the mission of the Judge Advocate General's Corps. Chief Warrant Officer 5 Steddum's impact, excellence, and enduring achievements reflect great credit upon him, the Judge Advocate General's Corps, and the United States Army. Signed, General Mark A. Milley, Chief of Staff of the Army, and Ryan J. McCarthy, Acting Secretary of the Army.
Ma'am, would you join us? There's no way to recognize 31 years of selflessness and service, especially for soldiers that are forward in forward areas and the families left behind. This is a small token from all of us to you to thank you.
Lieutenant General Petey will now present Mrs. Steddum with the Certificate of Appreciation from the Chief of Staff of the Army. The certificate reads, "This is to certify that Katrina Steddum, on the occasion of the retirement of her husband from the United States Army, has earned grateful appreciation for her own unselfish, faithful, and devoted service. Her unfailing support and understanding helped to make possible her husband's lasting contribution to the nation. Signed, Mark A. Milley, General Chief of Staff. Lieutenant General PD will present Mrs. Steddum with the Public Service Commendation Medal. For extraordinary contributions and selfless volunteer service in support of military families, soldiers, and the Judge Advocate General's Corps, spanning a period of over 30 years, Mrs. Katrina Steddum's vast contributions have positively affected the lives of many soldiers and their families. Her thousands of volunteer hours combined with daily responsibilities to family and her schoolwork is a testament to her dedication to public service. Her commitment to public service is in keeping with the highest traditions of the armed service and reflects great credit upon her, the Judge Advocate General's Corps, and the United States Army. Signed, Charles N. Peedy, the Judge Advocate General. At this time, Mrs. Peedy and Mrs. Risch will present a gift to Katrina.
So on behalf of Anne and myself and all of the spouses in the JAG Corps, because we know your contribution, we want to present this to you. So thank you very,
Thank you, ladies. Lieutenant General PD will now present Chief Steddum with the Presidential Letter of Appreciation.
This is a long one, so we have to.
The Presidential Certificate of Appreciation is presented to Chief Warrant Officer 5, James E. Steddum. I extend to you my personal thanks and the sincere appreciation of our grateful nation for your contribution of honorable service to our country. You have helped maintain the security of the nation during a critical time in its history with a devotion to duty and a spirit of sacrifice in keeping with the proud traditions of the military service. I trust that in the coming years you will maintain an active interest in the armed forces and the purpose for which you serve. Those who follow in your footsteps will draw inspiration from your commitment, dedication, and sacrifices made to ensure the protection of our American freedoms. My best wishes to you for happiness and success in the future. Signed, Donald J. Trump, Commander-in-Chief. Chief Steddum has also received presidential letters of appreciation from Presidents Carter, Bush, and Clinton. Chief Steddum will now be recognized by several people. Chief Flores.
This is where I sit down and you stay.
At this time, Chief Warrant Officer 4 Flores, Army National Guard, will present Chief Steddum with a gift on behalf of the National Guard soldiers of the Judge Advocate General's Corps.
So, in a nod to Chief Steddum's service overseas in Operation Desert Storm with the 2nd ACR, I have the honor of presenting this print, which this shows the National Guard multiple launch rocket systems in operation in Desert Storm. Their rate of fire and accuracy was such that the Iraqis came to refer this as steel rain. Thank you for everything, Chief Steddum.
Chief Warrant Officer 4 Cologne and Chief Warrant Officer 4 Westbrook will present Chief Steddum with a gift on behalf of the legal administrators and the legal command in the United States Army Reserve.
Mr. Steddum has been a supporter and an influencer to the United States Army Reserve like no other Chief Warrant Officer of the Corps in the history of the universe. Thank you.
I echo those words, and also on behalf of the designated survivor, General Shafulo, all the soldiers and family members in the legal command, especially the legal administrators who you've certainly influenced and have made great strides for the future. We really appreciate your leadership and your support. Thank you.
At this time, Command Sergeant Major Retired Joseph Lister will present Chief Steddum with a gift on behalf of all the retired Army paralegals.
So it's a military tradition that the NCO or the enlisted is the protector of the guidon. And for what Chief's done for the retired paralegals that he's touched, his legacy lives beyond what's out here. He's touched me and many others. So we just want to thank you, Chief, for what you've done for all the paralegals.
Chief Warrant Officer 5, Ron Prescott, will present Chief Steddum with a metal engraved plate made by a friend and retired Chief Warrant Officer 4, Okamuro. It reflects personal notes from retirement received from several Army leaders, including the Secretary of the Army, Chief of Staff of the Army, Sergeant Major of the Army, the Judge Advocate General, the Deputy Judge Advocate General, and from Brigadier Generals Escalier, Berger, Houston, and Shapulo. In addition, the plate contains significant notes of memorable events, including promotion to Chief Warrant Officer 4, promotion to Chief Warrant Officer 5, and selection as the Chief Warrant Officer of the Corps. These notes were authored by General McChrystal, Lieutenant General Darpino, Lieutenant General Chipman, Major General Ayers, and Major General Tate. At this time, the Judge Advocate General will present Chief Steddum with the Shadow Box in recognition of his 32 years of service to the Judge Advocate General's Corps, the United States Army, and the nation.
Okay, so hold on. So on behalf of all of us, Chief, we are grateful. I hope this is a small token that hopefully kind of shows your path in life for the last 31 years, and hopefully you got a place to display it.
Thank you, gentlemen. The Judge Advocate General's Regimental Command Sergeant Major will now perform a flag ceremony in recognition of Chief Steddum's honorable service.
Sure, thank you for this opportunity. I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop of the world's tallest buildings. I stand guard in America's halls of justice. I stand with power in the world. Look up and see. I stand for peace, truth, honor, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident, I am arrogant, I am proud. When I'm flown with my fellow banners, my head is a little higher, my colors a little truer. I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshipped, I am saluted. I am loved, I am revered. I am respected, I am feared. I have fought in every battle of every war for more than 200 years. I was flown at Valley Forge, Gettysburg, Shiloh, and Appomattox. I was there at San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, the Argonne Forest, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, Guam, Okinawa, Korea, Quezon, Saigon, Vietnam, the mountains of Afghanistan, and the streets of Baghdad know me. I was there. I led my troops. I was dirty, battle-worn, and tired, but my soldiers cheered me, and I was proud. I have been burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of countries that I have helped set free. But it doesn't hurt, for I'm invincible. I have been soiled upon, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of my country. And when it is done with those whom I've served, it hurts, but I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have slipped the bonds of earth and have stood watch of uncharted frontiers from my vantage point on the moon. I have borne silent witness to all of America's finest hours. But my finest hours are yet to come. When I'm torn into strips to be used as bandages for my wounded comrades. when I'm flown at half-mast to honor my soldier, or when I lay in the trembling arms of a grieving parent at the gravesite of their fallen son or daughter, I am proud. I am the flag of the United States of America. CW5 James Steddum, today is a privilege to give you the flag of the United States of America, the flag that you've defended and served for 30 years. Know that the men and women that you've led and trained during your service are ready to take the mantle and keep it moving forward. Thank you.
Lieutenant General Petey will present Chief Steddum with his retirement certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Stay where you are. Don't move a muscle.
So I asked a warrant officer this week, who I esteem very highly, what they found most remarkable about Jim Steddum, and we closed with this. That warrant officer said, he's an unflappable problem solver because of his vast experience. Whenever anything was presented, he simply calmly absorbed the news and explained the solution. And that's why we grow soldiers, that's why we grow officers, and that's what happens when you become a Jim Steddum. And so, on behalf of the entire regiment, for all of your problem solving, below these many years, we thank you with a number of things. One, on behalf of the regiment, in particular the leadership team right here, we thank you, Jim, your regimental corps. My personal point is to say a personal thanks to you. Again, what we found remarkable in this coin was that they actually got this right. They put the quill over the sword. It came out a little bigger than we expected, but it's pretty cool. And then lastly, for our Corps, our regimental home is always in Charlottesville, and we consider that home base for us. And we want you to know, Jim, that the light is always on at our regimental home for you, and this is a key to our regimental home. And now, we will publish the order.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Certificate of Retirement. This is to certify that Chief Warrant Officer 5, James E. Steddum, having served faithfully and honorably, is retired from the United States Army. Effective date, 30 October 2019. Signed, General Mark A. Milley, United States Army Chief of Staff.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce CW5 retired Jim Steddum.
So, thank you all for being here. I am completely overwhelmed. My aunt came in on Sunday and kept me completely occupied from Sunday night until like lunchtime today. And I had no time to think about anything really, which was fantastic. And then I'm driving over here and my belly's like, what am I gonna do? I prepared some remarks, and I'm going to have to read over them because there's no way I can do it without that. So first, it says here, thank you, sir. Thank you for hosting this event, for being a great leader in a lot of ways, and I'll cover that in here. Very kind words. Your support of the family, families, is tremendous, and it doesn't go unnoticed, and it's extremely appreciated. Thank you. General Dartino, ma'am, and Mr. Brown, thank you for being here, and thank you for a lot more than that. I'll cover that too. Mrs. Farragara, Dwayne, thank you for being here. It's really, really good to see you. Mr. Hoadley, he always gets recognized for being at all of these events, but I get to recognize him for something a little bit more special today because he was my first staff judge advocate as a warrant officer. And I learned a lot. It was a great, great experience. So thank you very much, sir. Ms. Osprung, thank you for being here. And my battle buddy, Mr. Shea, traveling partner, thank you for coming all the way back from Michigan. I really appreciate the last 4 years with you. It's been wonderful. And Barbara too, thank you. Sergeant Major Martinez, thank you. That was amazing, as usual. Much more special today because it was for me. Pat Lister, I just got to the point where I can call him Pat. He was a great, great teammate. He taught me a lot. We used to talk to our audiences about sharpening the sword with each other. We didn't always agree. I think we did always agree, but we would sharpshoot each other anyway. And Mr. Prescott, good luck, man. There's too many people to recognize, but I want to just thank you all for being here. All the distinguished guests, you are all distinguished. It's been a great honor to have served with you for the past 30 years, through thick and thin. This career has been absolutely fantastic. From the early days, I've been blessed with great examples and role models and friends. And all of this stuff, to recognize me, is all because of people that have come before me and influenced me. And hopefully I was able to pass that on. And I hope I did that okay. I want to give a couple of examples. Going back to my first assignment, I had a great sergeant major. I don't remember his name. I can see his face, I can't remember his name. And I was a PFC. And I thought I was doing something great on my own as a squadron paralegal, out there on my own. No trial counsels. I didn't even know what a trial counsel was. But I was doing 300 Article 15s a year. And I thought I did something great, and the sergeant major said, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Sergeant Major, I thought I was doing the right thing." He's like, "You're a PFC, you don't get paid to think." Roger that, Sergeant Major. A few months later, I do something else, right? And he's like, "Steddum, what were you thinking?" "Sergeant Major, I don't get paid to think." Next thing I know, I'm on a truck to Iraq. But thankfully for people that couldn't be here today, Chaplain Kilgore was my chaplain during that time period. And my best friend was his chaplain's assistant, who I did my first summary court-martial on. True story. But every time I think about chaplains or military spirituality, I think of him. He's been a great influence on me, and he would not even know that. General PD mentioned some of the foundations. I'd like to just cover that quickly. Thinking back, my foundation, my passion for service started early with influences like my dad, my scout leader, Max Lampo, my ROTC instructor, Lieutenant Colonel Paul Hunter, and his wife, Camille, which we're still friends with today. he warned us about getting married the day after high school graduation. And he wouldn't attend, and it worked out for us.
He approves now.
They taught me and reinforced with me what citizenship in the community, citizenship in the nation is really all about. After joining the Army, I had great NCOs. Some of them are or couldn't be here, but Troy Tyler, Damon Traeger, the Woodhouses, Randy Bruns, Don Johnson. They taught me about standards, leadership, attention to detail. And then I had some great TCs and CJAs. John Patrick, one of my first trial counsels. And actually, my very first trial counsel was Matt Dana, who's doing great stuff in California. They taught me about ethics, loyalty, and gave me a glimpse into what was the elusive big picture that everybody kept talking about. And then I had some really great captains too, and they were all in one place. I had captains Bradley, Woods, and Tanabe, all in one assignment. In the same job, they were in the same job. They just kept turning over, but they were fantastic. They gave me a taste of being what a leader is and a supervisor of a legal office. That was at Tripler in Hawaii. But they had good bosses too, like Rose Anderson and Jan Shervat. And that's truly where I got the bug. Colonel Anderson was like, you need to be a warrant officer. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. She's like, go find out. Yeah. So I did transition. I made my way to Fort Hood. I wasn't successful the first time because of a guy named Kevin Kelly. That's all right. And then I met a couple of other warrant officers, Jim Bertotti and Sam Manicum. It was their faith in me that got me over the hurdle of a session. And then a couple of other really, really good, strong warrant officers that got me through candidate school, candidate school's not that big a deal, but during candidate school, my dad died. And so it was a little bit harder than most. And so CW5 Sharon Swartworth, CW2, then CW2 Debbie Sharp, and my TAC officer, Hank Hankin, who is still a very close friend right now. Ironically, I wrote this down. Ironically, Debbie and Hank now work at Swartworth Hall at Fort Rucker. And not to mention the support I had from the entire class of 0101 Blue Fusion. And one of those members is here, Eddie. Where are you? Eddie, Blue Fusion. As a legal administrator, I've been blessed with outstanding leaders. Each one have given me the opportunity to do something new, build upon my abilities, and do more for the JAG Corps of the Army. While preparing for this, I also looked up my record. My recall's not that good anymore, so I had to write some stuff down. So I'm just going to talk about my raters and senior raters as being a warrant officer. And they're not so old that you won't recognize them. I've already mentioned Mr. Hoadley and his deputy, Keith Well, who's also still doing great things for the Army at Fort Knox in our claims service. Pete Cullen and Pat O'Hare at the schoolhouse. Matt Miller and Walt Hudson, that was in Korea. And John Rockcliffe also. Colonel Bill Smoot and Jeff Peterson. Kevin Robitaille and Rich Gross. Colonel Curley. Mike Jordan, a Marine, which was fun. I also got to work for the law firm of Bagwell and Bagwell, Jimmy and Randy in Alaska. In my last OSJ team, Colonel Rob Vasquez, the deputy, and then two really, really awesome SJAs, Pam Harms and Kevin Jacobson. Just a phenomenal team. Then I kind of left the JAG Corps. I went to Fort Rucker. I taught at the college, met a lot of people, and learned really about the Army warrant officer. I had great coaches because it's not stuff that we taught each other in the JAG Corps. So there were a couple of CW5s that helped me, I think, make CW5. The late CW5 Jim Rathburn passed away recently. Brian Hansen and John House, the outgoing deputy commandant now. With their encouragement and mentorship, as well as the commandants, Colonel Smith and Colonel Thompson, and the friendship of great teammates, many of which are here, Danielle Fisher and Jay Fisher. Joe, our chaplain for today. And Carl Rickert, also a legal administrator who passed Fort Rucker. Great friends, and there's a ton of others. If it were not for all of them guiding and coaching me, I wouldn't have made CW5. And then I would not have gotten that call one day as I'm teaching a class and my phone keeps just buzzing and buzzing. I'm like, okay, I've got to take a break. And I'm like, hey, I keep missing this number. She's like, Jim, this is Flora. I'm like, okay. She's like, I got this job opportunity for you. Don't answer now. Talk to your wife, and then I'll call you back at noon tomorrow. And okay. So as it happened, that was a Tuesday. She called back on Wednesday, which was what we called Fundamentalist Wednesday at Fort Rucker. That's when all the 270 Alpha legal administrators, students, or faculty would get together at the local Mexican restaurant and, spend 2 or 3 hours talking. That's what we did on Wednesdays. That's when she called back, and I got to say yes to that. And a truly amazing experience, man. And I learned a lot the first 2 years, and I was able to apply that into the next 2 years, along with some other skills that I had to develop kind of on the spot. I really appreciate the opportunities that you give. Can't not mention a couple others, like General Ayers, which I didn't really know except when I was in Afghanistan. Kind of short story. I was working for Colonel Gross, the lead guy to US-4A, and General Ayers was the MLO at the time. And he kept doing these quarterly law conferences. And we were in Afghanistan, and it was all about Iraq. So we talked for Afghanistan for like 2 minutes. And the conference was like, I don't get it. I just don't get it. And so there were some emails. I think there was an agenda the next time. It was kind of cool. And then the next Deputy Judge Advocate General, Major Risch, was Major Risch when I got selected for warrant officer. He was a big part of that team, working for Colonel DeSuze. And really the only thing I can remember about Colonel DeSuze was at Christmas he would wear his Santa hat with the regimental crest, even to staff calls. Who, by the way, wrote a letter for me, so I guess it worked out. Okay. General Keating mentioned about the surgeries. I don't think I need to talk about that anymore, other than I did hit a pretty low point, and what he said was kind of true, but it wouldn't have been for the encouragement of T&D and Katrina that I'd be here today, I think, with good morale. And I really, really appreciate it. I needed that kick. We all do from time. So, speaking of family, I guess I wasn't, I didn't read. I'm very proud of my family and for all the sacrifices they've made over the past 30 years. Amber could not be here, she's living in Wisconsin. But she's adulting, and I'm proud of her. Charlie, a.k.a. Chemo, and his wife Alexa, Kalani, and Kaya. You've given me my greatest gifts, and that's grandchildren. Thank you. And thank you for everything that you put up with over the last 22 years. And then there's Leilani, and fiance Sean, and daughter Emery. And I don't know what the relationship is yet, we haven't identified this, but parents, co-parents, Sean's parents, CW5, Scott Gray, and his wife Sophia. Thank you for reading that. And then my aunt and uncle, which you've all heard about already, Deb and Laura. Thank you so much for everything that you do, all the time. It's great, great, appreciate it. And they're representing everybody in Southwest Missouri, from Springfield to Joplin, Neosho, Wilkes City. Everybody, including my sisters, Sherry and Jody. And then, at this point, I gotta read the cue. Gift cards. Yeah. I'm just giving small little tokens to chemo. Gift card, we're just simple. Gift card and a military brat coin. They're adults now, but they still are going through, what we do. Leilani. Should have recognized the teal. And Mickey, who's only been with us for 9 years, but has moved. Born in Alaska, lived in Hawaii, and then Alabama, and then DC. So she's been around. Okay. All right, and then finally Katrina, and I've got to read this one. My best friend since 1987. I was thinking last night maybe 86. And she's been my wife since 1988. After high school graduation, she is and will always be my everything. She's literally nursed me back from brain surgery, welcomed me home from deployments, and took care of my mother for 10 years until she passed, just after I took this job. And she's even kicked my ass when I needed kicking, when it needed kicking. All the time while raising kids, going to school, volunteering everywhere for everything, for everyone. You are truly the example I try to live up to. So, Katrina does not like real flowers. They die. So we started collecting, or she started collecting, these gold dipped roses, and now we've expanded into platinum dipped roses. Red, white, and blue for today, one for each of our 10 years. I know this is taking way too long. Everyone, I'm overwhelmed with your presence, your kind words, your amazing gifts. Most importantly, your friendship, camaraderie. I hope I was able to positively influence you like the boss said I did. Sir, that was overwhelming. I was doing great until that happened. But it's really only because there were people doing that for me, like you. Just a couple other things I gotta do before I do the last thing. Miss Stuyvesant has been my XO, not really XO, she's not really XO. She's a career manager for warrant officers, and she takes care of them. She does it phenomenally. She did all of this by herself. And she does so much that people just don't even understand. She also is one of those people that have kept my morale up. In fact, I asked her to do that, and I know that was not easy. And if you noticed, when she read that retirement award, she had a little pep to it. Thank you for everything that you do. I think she deserves a round of applause. Yes. Okay. Okay. So that really closes this out for me. I just hope that I was able to influence those that mentored, coached, and taught me. Thank you. Army Strong. There's a video I'd just like to show to close it out. A roll.
For spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. Next time we stand and say, God bless America, land that I love. America, America, God shed His grace on me. Sit beside her and guide her from sea to shining sea. Back then when we stand up free, and the world forgave the men who died to give that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her till the day. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. I will remember you. It's been a long day without you, my friend. And I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again. Another turning point, a force looking through. Tongue of your brother is direction where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question, but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. Had the time of my life. No, I've never felt like this before. Yes, I swear it's the truth. And I owe it all to you. I've had the time of my life. No, I've never felt like this before. I wanna be forever young. Do you really wanna live forever, forever and ever? I will remember you forever young. Will you remember me? When I see you again, when I see you again. I've had the time of my life. I hope you had the time of your life.
Ladies and gentlemen, the benediction will be delivered by Chief Warrant Officer Corps Retired Joe Scarville. And please remain standing for the playing of the Army song.
Please bow with me. Heavenly Father, we thank you for Jim and his family on this beautiful day, the lives that he has touched in his 30-plus years of service. Lord, you've blessed him with dynamic leadership that he has so willingly and graciously shared with so many, both from the classroom and out in the field. The JAG Corps and the Army as a whole have been blessed over the past 30 years and we thank you. As you saw earlier in this ceremony, the legacy he leaves on these leaders in today's Army. He is the epitome of a trainer, mentor, and coach. But we know Jim was not alone in his journey. The support he receives from his family, still to this day, and beyond, is a major driving force behind his success. As he embarks on this next chapter, Lord, please continue to bless him and provide him with the guidance and wisdom to continue his success as a civilian. He will always be a soldier, but just wearing a different uniform. Lord, we thank you for the flag that we all have taken the vow to defend. May we never forget. We thank you for this beautiful ceremony and all that are here to support the Steddum family. In Jesus' name, amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the ceremony. Food and refreshments are provided in the entrance of the auditorium. You may extend your congratulations to Chief Warrant Officer Ford and his family. Chief Warrant Officer, I demoted him. Not going anywhere, sir, sorry. Congratulations to Chief Warrant Officer 5 retired, Steddum, and his family during this reception. Thank you for coming, everybody, and thank you, everybody, for your support and your help today. Have a great day.